This is really the key to the success of Donald Trump's Twitter account is he tweets himself. So he fires off a series of tweets and, people listen.
So Matthias, Twitter is one of the iconic social media sites for influencers of world leaders. So, for example, over 270 heads of state and government officials use Twitter. So why is Twitter so influential at the moment?
Well, Twitter is really the newswire of governments and world leaders. It's only 140 characters, a single tweet, but you can say quite a bit in a tweet. And of course, there is a link. You add a link to your website, to other social media sites, for people to read more. And we've seen now 856 accounts were analyzed in our latest Twitplomacy study. Twitplomacy, of course, is Twitter and diplomacy. And looking at heads of state and government. And we can see the most followed is Pope Francis. He actually tweets in 9 different languages once a day, and he has 33.7 million followers. In second position now is US President Donald Trump with over 30 million followers, and in third position Narendra Modi. The Indian Prime Minister, he just overtook the Indian Prime Minister. In a couple of months he will actually be the most followed world leader. So that is kind of the top 10 list that we can see here.
And let's focus on Donald Trump a little bit more, because as a newly appointed president, his Twitter presence is actually really impressive, but he necessarily doesn't use Twitter the way that other world leaders do. And for example, he will directly mention other world leaders and call them out. He'll mention tax reforms, and he does write his tweets himself, which is pretty revolutionary.
I think, and this is really the key to the success of Donald Trump's Twitter account, is he tweets himself. So he fires off a series of tweets, and people listen. When the President of the United States tweets something, and it comes directly from him, and it doesn't seem that these tweets are coordinated with the White House communication team. So this is really kind of the new aspect of Twitter diplomacy, is you better follow the US president, you better read what he has to say. So it's quite interesting, because the number of interactions, he has 166 million interactions on his tweets over the past 12 months. So, very, very effective. Just consider this, when he sends out a tweet, he gets on average 13,000 retweets per tweet, which is, really phenomenal. So he really uses Twitter, to make himself heard. And, when the president tweets, people listen.
And we have a fantastic example here, because his 4 most recent tweets, the first one mentions the British Prime Minister Theresa May, the second 2 healthcare and tax reforms, and the final one is fake news and the fact that his message and his social media is the perfect platform. So would you say that Donald Trump is making Twitter great again?
I think he has made Twitter great again, and most leaders have now decided, we have to follow this account because there are these tweets coming. Now the key question is, how do they reply to Donald Trump? Should they reply on Twitter when Donald Trump makes a statement? So very few actually have called him out. For example, the president of the Marshall Islands called him out a couple of weeks ago, saying, please don't rescind on the Paris Agreement. Basically the Marshall Islands are, in danger of being, being inundated, if water levels rise. The governor of Puerto Rico has called Donald Trump out, but most leaders refrain from mentioning the @RealDonaldTrump account, but will more often mention the official POTUS account. And some leaders have decided not to react. For example, the UK government decided not to react on social media when Donald Trump suggested that the former UKIP leader Nigel Farage would make a great UK ambassador in Washington. So Downing Street and the Foreign Office decided not to reply on Twitter. So the only world leader actually who replied is the Mexican president, Enrique Peña Nieto. So when Donald Trump tweeted Mexico will pay for the wall, just hours after they had a personal meeting, he took to Twitter and said, no, Mexico will never pay for the wall. He tweeted in Spanish, and I think it would have been even more effective if he had tweeted it in English. But so far, this is the only case of direct interactions. The Canadian Prime Minister, for example, has subtweeted Donald Trump when Donald Trump decided to the travel ban. the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tweeted, refugees welcome to Canada. And the Pope sent off 2 tweets, saying, it's better to build bridges than to build walls, but without mentioning the US president.
And finally, so we have some reference here to the most connected world leaders. So I think the fundamental question is there's an outreach to the public from these world leaders, but should they reply to each other? Is 140 characters, is it not enough? Can it ever detriment ties? What do you think?
So it's quite interesting. There are different uses of Twitter. Some people are more, broadcasting, such as Donald Trump and the top 10 leaders. Others, as like foreign ministries, are more interested in creating connections with their peers. And, the Twitter connections are kind of show how well they are, how well the relations are. And number one here is, for the past years, is the European External Action Service. That's a foreign policy branch of the European Union with 127 mutual connections with other world leaders. In second position, the Russian Foreign Ministry and the German Foreign Ministry in third position. What they can do is, by following each other mutually, they can actually send each other direct messages. We don't know if this happens a lot, but I do have to say, with our diplomacy account, we're very well connected, and we do occasionally receive direct messages from world leaders.
Okay, that's very interesting. Well, that's a final thought, so thank you so much for coming in today and sharing your insights.
Thanks for having me, Jessica.
Well, that's all from us here in the Geneva studios, but we want to hear how you found this interview, so please do like and comment and share on Twitter.